Mind control weapons.
Ooh.
This is from bigthink.com. Dream hacking. Is this the dystopian future of advertising?
Can I save us some time? Yes.
Yes.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes, yeah. Come with us, listener. We got some rabbit trails to go down. Now that our homes are littered with listening smart devices, not my home, but apparently everybody else's home. Is your home littered with listening
Alexas.
Smart devices? No.
No, the one thing that does listen to me, and I know it's true, is my TV.
Yeah.
Because I have this little device that I can see the activity on everything on my network. And I can see that my TV is listening to me all the time. So I've started unplugging it. I just leave it unplugged, which, believe it or not, also helps in that I turn the TV on much less. It's just sort of a
psychological thing.
It's a beautiful big black mirror just in my living room, just staring at me.
Black mirror. It's the portal.
Okay, so what's next?
Now that our homes are littered with listening smart devices and we are inseparable from our phones, it can seem like sleep is the only part of our lives that is off limits to marketers trying to influence us. But this blissful bedtime bastion may not hold out much longer. Last year, a team of 38 experts in the field of sleep and dreaming signed onto an opinion piece warning that dream advertising is on the way. It makes sense that marketers would seek to access our dreams. Warranted or not, dreams have special meaning for millions of people. Dreaming is when our brains can form strong associations. Quote, dreams are actual mechanisms that have evolved biologically to help us make critical decisions about how to lead our lives in the future. Robert Stickgold, a professor of...
Actual mechanisms. That's very interesting.
A professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, an expert in dream studies, and lead author of the opinion piece, told NPR. The American Marketing Association New York's 2021 Future of Marketing survey of 400 marketers from various U.S. firms found that 3/4 aim to deploy dream advertising technologies by 2025.
Deploy. Three-quarters of them, that's 300 marketers. 300
really,
firms, rather. Yeah. Full firms aim to deploy, have active dream advertising technologies in 3 years.
Yeah, this is why we're having the quote unquote great reset. People are playing musical chairs because this kind of stuff is coming right around the corner. But is this just typical marketing hype or a candid recognition of an approaching dystopian reality? Wow, big think. Talking like Canarians. In the lab, scientists have already pioneered methods of altering the content of our dreams, albeit in a very basic way. In 2020, Adam Horowitz, a PhD student in the Fluid Interfaces group at MIT, used a novel device called Dormio to, quote-unquote, incubate subjects' dreams with basic ideas. The system,
I think we covered this.
We did. The system detects when a wearer enters hypnagogia, the transitional state of consciousness between wakefulness and sleep.
Then sleep paralysis happens.
Exactly. Then plays them specifically auditory stimuli with the aim of altering their dreams. And yes, that in-between state is where all kinds of stuff happens. When you can see things. I mean, I have personal experience. I know you have personal experience with that. And I think almost everybody has some kind of experience in that. Yeah.
So why not let the advertisers fill that space for us instead of...
It's as if they've been studying the phenomenon for decades. In Har's published study of Dormio, he and his co-authors successfully used the system to make subjects dream about trees.
Oh, good job.
Now, Dormio and quote-unquote trees are a long way from realizing fully formed dream advertising, perhaps the ultimate form of product placement. Still, the ubiquity of microphones in the bedroom raises a disturbing, albeit unlikely, possibility. Most of us have smart devices on our wrists or at our bedsides as we sleep. These easily could be used to subtly initiate dream advertising. Imagine waking up to your phone emitting the enticing sound of a carbonated beverage filling a cup and a faint voice whispering, Coca-Cola. The reason this is unlikely is because such messaging would constitute a blatant violation of consent and privacy. We were talking about that with the Roe v. Wade thing. And thus would be quickly squashed in courts when discovered. Interesting. Squashed in courts.
Although they don't, I don't know if they get into it in this article, but you could easily see how an app, some app, you get the app, you have these sleep apps. There's plenty of sleep apps that track your sleep. You put your phone on your bed, tracks your movement, tracks your whatever. I don't know what they track. A lot of them record you, so you can kind of go back and hear if you're a sleep talker. Right. You can go back and hear what you talk about in your sleep. All it would take is for one of those user license agreements, one of those EULAs, like, hey, our app is free. It's really great. You're going to sleep better. You'll get all this data. You're going to love your data. But in return, you just got to consent to these nighttime advertisements, because these apps, they know exactly when you do move into the hypnagogic state, or at least, they can estimate it. And it's total. I mean, this is not a future thing. Like, this could happen now.
It's probably already happening, and this is why they're starting to bring it to the public awareness here.
Right.
Ethics of dream
disclosure.
Hacking. Yeah. Still, to prevent companies from even contemplating this sort of strategy, Stick Gold and Har insist policy steps should be taken soon. Quote, we believe that proactive action and new protective policies are urgently needed to keep advertisers from manipulating one of the last refuges of our already beleaguered conscious and unconscious minds, our dreams, they wrote. After all, the same technologies, intimate implants and futuristic wearables that could be used for dream advertising could also be utilized for more noble aims.
Neuralink, anyone?
Exactly. Quote, we envision that nightmare treatments, learning enhancements, overnight therapy, augmentation of creativity, and overcoming addiction are all within the realm of possibility. Har wrote with fellow researchers Patty Mays and Michelle Carr.
The classic justification. This isn't for commercial reasons. This is to help people. Yeah. So let us do it, and we'll let Coca-Cola do whatever Coca-Cola does.
But first, scientists and technologists should adhere to some basic ethics. They say, do not incubate dreams without consent. That's the easiest one to get around. Click, don't read all the fine print. Just click here.
Yeah, consent being so easy to get around. Yeah.
Design tools that won't result in dependency. All right. And minimize impact on sleep quality. Oh, okay. So as long as you're sleeping well, hey, have at my brain dreams, baby.
Also, not no impact.
No, minimize. Yeah. Minimize. Yeah. So there you go. That's the story. And I appreciate producer Jam for, producer Jam sending us all kinds of links recently. So appreciate that.
I've seen that. Let's consolidate them into one nice big email.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. And one of the links that was sent in by producer Jam was a wordstream.com article from 2021, 6 examples of subliminal advertising from spooky to not safe for work. And it goes through some history and some explanation of subliminal advertising, what it is, and, kind of what the subconscious is. And here's what it says. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to skip this because there was a whole thing that happened in the 50s where Coca-Cola got accused of putting subliminal messages in their advertisements. And the study was that claimed that apparently was bogus. Had been fabricated in its entirety, as its disgraced author James Vickery admitted years after its publication in an attempt to part advertisers from their money. So, yeah, it was actually
kind of like what George Soros is trying to do to Elon.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. The playbook doesn't change too much. Yeah. And they give some examples here. There was a game called Husker Du. The executive from Premium Core later admitted responsibility for the inclusion of frames, which the FCC investigated following viewer complaint, because spliced into their ad, I guess, was "get it," like one frame of "get it."
Yeah.
So subliminal stuff. So, there's examples of that. This one was funny. Marlboro was banned from advertising with with professional sporting organizations like Formula One. So they tried to get around it by changing their Marlboro logo. The red sort of triangle, white triangle on the bottom, red thing with the black letters Marlboro. They changed it into a barcode. That so there's kind of like that association, and then they put it on the back of one of the Formula One cars, and then they got caught later for doing it.
Oh, that's funny.
So yeah, there's some, and then there's some ones that are not safe for work.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the whole advertising industry works on subtle manipulations,
right?
And it just depends on how subtle exactly they are.
Yeah, there's a KFC ad with a dollar bill in the lettuce, like a real subtle kind of thing going on. KFC following 11 accounts, 5 former of British 90s pop sensation Spice, and 6 guys named Herb, because Herb and Spice. Get it?
Okay, yeah. All right.
So anyway, those are some examples. But, this is kind of more of the fun, like, the advertising. They're innocent. They're trying things out.
Right.
But there's actually a much more disturbing origin. And, the one word that I want to zoom in on in this Big Think article, and we've talked about it before, is the word incubate, because that concept is not new at all. In fact, it is extremely ancient. And again, thanks to producer Jam for sending in this document here from dreamscience.ca, dream incubation, ancient techniques of dream influence. And this is a revised document from T. Nielsen in 1988, ancient methods of dream incubation, bodily methods of inducing spiritual presence.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it talks about dream incubation. It goes into the history of it. And it goes all the way back to Egypt and Babylonia and, a lot of the Greek, ancient Greek and Rome picked up on it. But there was something interesting here. It says here on page 3, Greece, such as the binding of a body part in cloth to bring an image of the deity in close proximity to the supplicant, the epithet of Besa as protector against snakes is particularly noteworthy considering how central the symbol of the snake was in the later Greek healing cults. As the preferred manifestation of the incubated gods Asclepius, Trophonius, and Amapharius, others claim that incubation had an even earlier origin in Babylonian mysticism, since the Greek god Serapis, who was also widely associated with incubation, can be traced to the much earlier Babylonian god Ea of Eridu, often are also referred to as Sar Apsi. So Serapis, this Greek god Serapis. I wanted to check out, Serapis sounds familiar, because Serapis was a popular entity in the Roman Empire, often replacing Osiris as the consort of Isis in temples of Egypt. The name of the deity is derived from the syncretic worship of Osiris and the bull Apis as a single deity under the Egyptian name it's WSJR-HP. This name was later written in Coptic as Usur-Hapi. And so that's how you get Serapis. Was the most common form in ancient Greek until Roman times, when Serapis became common. The earliest mention of a Serapis occurs in the disputed death scene of Alexander, 323 BC. Here, Serapis has a temple at Babylon and is of such importance that he alone is named as being consulted on behalf of the dying king. The presence of Serapis in Babylon would radically alter perceptions of the mythologies of this era. The unconnected Babylonian god Ea, or Enki, as was titled Sar Aspi, means king of the Apsu.
I think Enki is pronounced Ankh.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And perhaps he is the one meant in the diaries. His significance in the Hellenic psyche, due to its involvement in Alexander's death, may have also contributed to the choice of Osiris Apis as the chief Ptolemaic god. And there's a whole thing about how part of that whole Alexander thing had to do with the dream by an unknown god. So, I mean, this whole thing about dream incubation goes way back to ancient mysticism. And they're just deploying the tactics here, right now, and with all this technology available to us now. So, nothing changes. Nothing new under the sun.
That's been part of the pitch for the value for value model for forever, is that, wrapped up in the advertising industry is a bunch of occultists and occult ideas and motivations. And it goes even into this dream advertising space as well, that the incubation of dreams is a millennias rather old practice, and was a spiritual practice used in what some might call the mystery schools and the ancient religions and worship of the past. And so when I'm talking about the weird source of the advertising industry, where the inspirations come from, where the ideas for how to successfully manipulate our psychology isn't just science. It is also stems from ancient occult practices. Yeah. And there you go. That was a wonderful breakdown of it, Gonz.
Well, thanks. And if you think about in the ancient context, what they were doing is trying to conjure these gods and have these encounters with the gods in this sort of dream state. And so if you think about who the gods are with these false gods, a lot of times in Babylon, and perhaps even the fallen entities themselves, who are the quote unquote gods in this context of dream hacking?
Well, the corporations would love to play that role.
Would love to play the gods,
which is another kind of aspect of what we talk about, and what we'll talk about in a second in our break here, is that these corporations are not just corporations. They're also, can be described as principalities and powers. I mean, you think about the rulership of different areas over the earth, and maybe even geographical, but maybe even some more ethereal areas or locations, different parts of our minds, different parts of culture, what they mean, what power they hold, not just in the world of capital, but also over people's worldviews and intentions and their morals and their ethics. And you've seen these corporations more and more recently get more active in the culture war, and they're very effective control mechanisms. And I think there's a very clear connection between how these corporations are sort of manifesting themselves and acting in the world, and these spiritual principalities and powers that traditionally have had power over people, that it's even talked about in the Bible. And of course, those would be the ones that the magicians of advertising would want to have you come in contact with in your dreams, and have a much more impactful life experience with their brand as you dream about Coca-Cola, just helping you achieve some sort of flight or something in your dreams, which would create some sort of, I would say, a very strong spiritual connection with the brand.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the word, the Greek word for mark, it means brand, branding, but also a brand, literally like how we use a brand.
How you brand a cow.
Yeah. So, and which is where the marketing term brand comes from, is the same concept. So this is, and dreams really, it really is sort of the window to the spiritual, and so if you get all these biohackers and a whole generation of kids, because if you think about these meditation apps and different apps that are out there to try to help you, and then we've been tracking the psychedelic movement of legitimizing certain substances in therapeutic purposes. I can picture somebody who's had PTSD or whatever, take a little bit of the psilocybin, synthetic psilocybin pills, to help with some of that. And then also, go ahead, give me the full package. Give me the dream hack that helps me process my traumas and, the whole deal. So I can picture this. And
you can get it for free because it's sponsored by Coca-Cola in your dreams.
And it really speaks to the, Revelation 17, Revelation 18, merchants of the earth using sorcery to deceive the nations, because that's exactly what this is. This is it. This thing we're talking about is really, I think it indicates, if we're on like the roadway or a highway to the end, the eschaton, that's it's a pretty big sign when it says, okay, dream hacking is here on a commercial level. I would say we're getting much closer. Who knows how long, Lord willing, but we're tapping into, the spiritual access points, at a more deliberate level. And so,
and I think it starts, it started a long time ago. But in terms of the technology and the technological infrastructure, the Alexas, the toaster that is also listening to you and streaming data,
records how many times you drink your milk or whatever, right? Yeah.
Which can all be seen as also spiritual entry points into our lives. What we say in secret, what we eat, what we cook, all these things. My TV that's constantly, I don't know what it's doing, but I don't like it. You're going to stay unplugged, mister. These can be sort of technological analogs to the spiritual access points we have, and it's no different with these dream incubation advertisers. And we reported on I think it was a Budweiser campaign. It was a Budweiser dream advertising campaign where you could sign up to have Budweiser advertised to you. You play this little thing before you go to bed or whatever. Which is interesting for a couple of reasons, because there's a lot of limits put on alcohol and tobacco companies for advertising.
They've been part of the legal battles many times in the past.
Right. There's lots of regulation on alcohol and tobacco advertising, but exactly what this guy's talking about in the article, there's no regulation on dream advertising right now. As far as dream advertising goes, all the companies that are regulated for advertising alcohol and cigarettes to children, there's no regulation for them to not be advertising in your dreams, which was one of the funny parts about their Budweiser dream advertisements. I don't know. I'm not like a huge policy guy, regulation guy, but as far as something like this, somebody's got to think of it ahead of time, or else we're going to be in a whole lick of trouble someday.
Yeah, this is the implications, even with legislation, because part of the double-edged sword with any kind of legislation is it just brings attention to the topic, and then it drives extremes with it, right? So you're going to have people see how far they can push the boundaries, and then you're going to get your groups that are advocates for this type of thing, and the whole deal. It's the same model as everything else, political and everything. But I think it's always a good reminder.